Arkansas, Mr. Hill, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank the panel for being with us. Good to see my old friend Dan Mitchell. I'm reminded by listening to this discussion and from my friend Mr. Heck, as a 30-year banker and business guy, the woman who comes in the bank branch and says, I can't be overdrawn in my account. And the bank manager says, but you are. And she says, I can't be. I still have checks. No laughter. Oh, well. Banking jokes just don't go over like they used to. Thank you. Thank you to the gentleman from South Carolina. You know, as a former Treasury official, it really saddens me to read comments from the New York Fed that says that the Treasury's position is crazy, counterproductive, and adding risk to the system, and that my friend, former Treasury official, now governor of the Federal Reserve System, Jay Powell, says that Treasury is politicizing important fiscal policy. I think we should all be shocked by that, Democrats and Republicans, because there's no room for that in the proper governance of our country, and it goes absolutely against everything Hamilton put in place back in his report on the public debt, 1790. I'm interested in some quick responses, and then I've got a couple of questions. Does everybody here, and I'm interested because I've kind of gotten a couple of different feelings, does everybody here support the fact that we have a debt limit and it comes up and we debate it? Just raise your hands if you support the existing debt limit statute effectively. Okay, three yes and one no. And do you all support Congressman McClintock's bill that we passed in the House last year, if you raise your hands on that?
Not sure legally I'm allowed
Well, I was going to say, I was just like, I support the policy.
Well, his bill was this issue of being able to, while we're negotiating a debt limit crisis, be able to continue to issue securities to pay the interest and keep payments current. Do you support a Greenspan-type commission that was used in '83 to tackle something like Medicare? Is that an idea, or do you think, as my friend from Maine says, it should be specifically the burden of the Congress, or do you like the idea of an independent commission that gives Congress a BRAC, up or down vote type approach?
Well, that's different.
You might comment on that if you like.
Well,
Dr. Mitchell, you want to comment on that?
I can comment on this. I mean, the 83 commission was different from a BRAC commission, and the result was, led to increase in taxes and a lot of other problems that we're facing right now. But
Dan? Any comment?
As Dr. DeRugy said, the '83 Social Security Commission did lead to some significant tax increases. It did not lead to the kind of long-run structural reform that I think would have been a better approach. I do like the idea of doing anything, including commissions, that will at least help to inform the debate. But I'm just not overly happy with the results we got from that one.
You know, I go home, and whenever I'm in town hall meetings, people are so fixated on the $1 trillion, a third of the budget that we vote on and debate on here in the appropriations process. And it's just a disproportionate amount of the things I think members of Congress hear when they're at home, and we never hear from our constituents in a detailed, thoughtful way about the 2/3 of the budget that I think has been the anchor of our conversations today. That I agree have a big demographic structural component to them. Dr. Stone, you talked about in your testimony general thoughts about levels of debt to GDP. You were a classic economist on the one hand, and on the other hand in your overview of that. But in the Reinhardt-Rogoff papers that were delivered to MBER and all that back in 08 to 09, they had specific views on debt to GDP levels for the long run. And I'd be interested in each of your views on what you think that band is of where we need to move debt to GDP to have the national debt return to being a national blessing and thus not be excessive. Dr. Mitchell?
As I mentioned before, Japan has government debt 200% of GDP. They can still borrow. Argentina would probably be in default if they tried to go to 50% of GDP. So it really depends on the underlying conditions in the country. which is why I think the most important thing to focus on is capping the growth of government spending relative to the economy. The Swiss debt brake does that. It's been very, very successful. Hong Kong, Article 107 of their basic law. The goal isn't to balance the budget per se, it's to make sure government doesn't grow faster than the private sector. If we could have a rule like that, where you address the underlying disease of too much government, then the symptom of red ink disappears. So I want to deal with the underlying problem. We deal with the underlying problem, and the symptom of borrowing goes away.
Mr. Chairman.
The gentleman's time has expired. The chair